Henry David Thoreau, the sage of simplicity and sass in the woods. Henry David Thoreau was many things: writer, philosopher, naturalist, tax evader, professional wanderer, and part-time curmudgeon. He was the kind of guy who'd ghost your dinner party because he had a better offer from a tree stump and a handful of blueberries. Born in 1817 in Concord, Massachusetts, a town that was about as exciting as dry toast, Thoreau spent his life showing us that you don't need riches or recognition to live richly and deliberately. You just need a cabin, a conscience, and an irrational affection for ponds. Thoreau went to Harvard, though he didn't much care for it. He refused to pay the $5 fee for his diploma, not out of poverty, but out of principle. That should give you a sense of his character: principled, thrifty, and unflinchingly unknowing to bureaucrats. Despite this Ivy League pedigree, Thoreau wasn't interested in the rat race. He was too busy trying to opt out of the species entirely. He saw most of society's norms: workaholism, consumerism, blind patriotism, as elaborate forms of self-delusion. To him, the average man was too busy sawing wood to sharpen the saw, and he was determined not to die with his song still trapped in his throat like a canary in a corporate cubicle. Thoreau's Hindu inspirations. Now, here's the bit that often gets skipped in the cliff notes. Thoreau was deeply inspired by Eastern philosophy, especially Hindu texts like the Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. He didn't just quote them, he bathed in them. He read English translations of Hindu scriptures, thank you 19th century Orientalists, and they blew his mind open like a morning lotus. The calm detachment of the Gita's Krishna advising Arjuna to act without attachment to results, that was pure Thoreauvian gospel. He called the Gita stately and serene and kept a copy by his bed like spiritual caffeine. He even said, "In the morning, I bathe my intellect in the stupendous and cosmogonal philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita." He found in these ancient texts what New England sermons lacked: a cosmic scale, a liberation from ego, and the audacity to question everything. He absorbed the Upanishadic notion of the Atma, the divine self within, and echoed it in his belief that every human has a sacred, untouchable core beyond social roles and capitalist obligations. So no, Thoreau wasn't just a Yankee crank. He was an American mystic, peeking eastward for clarity. Walden. At the ripe age of 27, Thoreau decided he'd had enough of his town life, the gossip, the fashion, the clamor of civilized nonsense. So, with his usual flair for the dramatic, he moved into the woods near Walden Pond. There, he built a small cabin, think minimalist Airbnb meets hobbit hole, on land owned by his friend and fellow transcendentalist Ralph Waldo Emerson. This was not full-blown survivalism. Emerson's house was a short walk away, and Thoreau frequently returned to town for dinner, laundry, and philosophical shade. But the goal wasn't rugged survival. It was clarity. "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately," Thoreau wrote, "to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not when I came to die discover that I had not lived." End quote. Translation: he wanted to make sure he wasn't wasting his one wild and precious life in the soul-crushing equivalent of a corporate status meeting. Walden, the book that resulted from this 2-year, 2-month, 2-day experiment reads like a love letter to simplicity and a breakup note to industrial civilization. Thoreau waxes poetic about beans, ants, and the changing seasons. But beneath the lyrical surface is a pointed critique of society's obsession and busyness and progress. He believed that most people lived lives of quiet desperation, like hamsters on a wheel, chasing wealth, fame, and social approval, never pausing to ask whether any of it actually mattered. Thoreau's answer? Probably not. Minimalism, with a side of snark. Thoreau's idea of success was not a six-figure salary or a corner office, but a life lived on one's own terms. He reduced his expenses to the barest minimum, grew his own food, and wrote in a style that oscillated between biblical grandeur and gloriously petty shade. He was the kind of guy who could wax poetic about the spiritual benefits of solitude one moment and then dunk on his neighbors for being conformist sheep the next. His famous dictum, simplify, simplify, was his version of Marie Kondo minus the Netflix deal. Though ironically, by saying simplify twice, he arguably complicated the message. Well, to Thoreau, simplicity wasn't just aesthetic, it was moral. Every dollar you earn comes at the cost of your life energy, so you'd better be damn sure it's worth it. He viewed consumerism as a modern form of slavery. People selling their souls and their Saturdays for stuff they didn't need to impress people they didn't like. Sound familiar? Civil disobedience. The original political rage quit. While Walden gave us Thoreau the poetic mystic, his essay, Civil Disobedience, revealed Thoreau the political firestarter. In 1846, he refused to pay a poll tax that helped fund the Mexican-American War and perpetuate slavery. He was promptly tossed in jail for one night before someone bailed him out, thus tragically interrupting his protest. Still, that one night led to one of the most influential political essays ever written. Civil disobedience became the philosophical template for everyone from Gandhi to Martin Luther King Jr. To every college student who ever held a handmade sign in front of the city hall. Thoreau argued that if the government is unjust, the moral individual has a duty to not cooperate, to throw a wrench in the gears, even if it means slipping on a jailhouse cot for a while. He was essentially the original I will not comply hipster, but with ethics. Legacy, nature's angry grandpa. Thoreau died young, at 44, from tuberculosis. An ironic fate for someone who spent so much time inhaling fresh air and sanctimony. On his deathbed, when asked if it made peace with God, Thoreau reportedly replied, "I didn't know we had quarreled." That's Henry for you, skeptical to the end, allergic to piety, and utterly uninterested in performing for anyone else's narrative. Today, he's remembered as one of the fathers of environmentalism, a pioneer of minimalist living, and a stubborn weirdo who believed that living authentically was more important than being liked. In a world choking on algorithms, attention spans, and ambition-fueled burnout, Thoreau still whispers from the woods, "Slow down, pay attention, be awake." In conclusion, Thoreau wasn't trying to be a guru. He wasn't selling a lifestyle brand or self-help seminar. He just wanted to remind you that you are enough without all the noise, the likes, the ladder climbing. That life, real life, starts the moment you stop outsourcing your purpose and start listening to the wind, the water, and your own damn soul. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by capitalism, deadlines, or group chats with more than 3 people, remember Henry David Thoreau. He walked into the woods with a pencil, a pair of boots, and a bad attitude, and came out with a blueprint for inner freedom. And all he asked in return, that we wake up.